We'll keep the poll going for just a couple more minutes. Thank you, everybody, for answering the poll questions. It always helps us have a better understanding of our audience and how to make sure that we are tailoring the webinar for the right group of people. All right, I think we are about ready to finish that poll. Anybody want to jump in now? And we got somebody from Brazil, London, and Israel now. I feel special. We have a lot of people joining this webinar. Thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to end that poll now. So as we continue this webinar, we'll do a quick little who OpsMx is, and then I'm going to pass it over to Kieran to go through everything that we're going to cover today. So a little bit about OpsMx. Our goal is to deliver software without human intervention. Really use automation to help software development and to push the envelope of the software world. A couple of products that we have here, we listed on our product side, but specifically today, we're going to touch on our Autopilot product, which is our intelligence layer for CI and CD, and how it integrates with Argo. You can see some of the customers that we have worked with and we're very proud to work with here on the screen. We are going to go over, in this presentation, we're going to go over a little bit about OpsMx and how we work with Argo or with Kubernetes and elements like that in Argo. And then we're going to have Kieran go through a demo. So with that, Kieran, why don't you take it from here?
Thank you, Brent. Okay, so today's topic is deploying Kubernetes applications using Argo Rollouts and Autopilot. So first things first, let's talk about Argo. So Argo is a collection of open source tools run on the Kubernetes application. So there are 4 tools basically so far, and more to come, I believe. And let's see briefly what are those. So one is Argo Workflows. So Argo Workflows basically allows us to define workflows declaratively. It takes care of, say, execution of the tasks in the defined order. And another is Argo Cd. Probably many people are familiar with it. So we can create an application, which is a CRD that references a source and a destination, so that Argo Cd takes care of identifying the changes to the source path and deploy the changes automatically. So the GitOps style. And the next is Argo Rollouts, which we are going to see the demo of. And this is basically provides deployment strategies like blue, green, and canary in a more controlled way. And the other is Argo Events, which is a event-based, which is basically an event bus that receives events from event sources, and then it will trigger the triggers other components like Kubernetes objects or Argo Workflows, AWS Lambda, Slack, etc. So let's take a simple example. So generally, an application will get an application receives a request for the processing. So typically, an ingress gateway would receive the request before routing it to the application. So Argo provides a CRD called Rollouts. So this is basically an enhanced Kubernetes deployment. So where we provide the strategies like blue, green, and canary, and the details there. So let's see how the Argo Rollouts does the deployment. So let's talk about Argo more about Argo Rollouts. So it performs, as I said, blue, green, and canary with ease. And you have fine-grained controls on canary deployment. So you have weighted traffic shifting, pause durations, and you have something called experiment, which we are going to see today, automated rollback and roll forward, flexibility to customize metrics and analysis of business KPIs. And yeah, it has many integrations like ingress controllers and service mesh like Istio, and metric providers basically used for during the analysis. So some of them are Prometheus, Wavefront, Datadog, New Relic, etc. So while this is all true, there are some challenges with the Argo rollouts. So the process of risk assessment is not so much reliable, because the metrics used there would be just a basic metrics we would use. There is no in-depth analysis. It's not completely reliable, just based on the analysis, based on the metrics we give there in the analysis template. We cannot fully rely on the deployment. So, and there is a lack of visibility. So if something goes wrong, so the developer, or in the production environment, if it goes wrong, so the triaging would take time. So because of the lack of visibility. And how do we overcome this? So that's using Autopilot. But before that, let's see some introduction of Autopilot. So this is an intelligent software delivery platform, the OpsMx ISD. So it has basically two layers: orchestration layer and a delivery intelligent layer, which is also called Autopilot, which we are going to see today. And briefly about the orchestration layer. So organization use continuous delivery tools like Spinnaker, Argo, etc. to automate the software deployment and delivery process. So, but however, software delivery process will still have many human steps involved, such as let's say performance and quality verification of release, so security and policy checks, and approvals of releases. So these things generally will hamper the fastness of the deployment. However, the manual process is usually tedious and error prone due to the deluge of data and tools involved in the CI/CD process. Also, it's complex and challenging to analyze every release, as the number of deployments increase per business needs. So that's where the Autopilot, OpsMx Autopilot comes. So it's an intelligent layer for the software delivery. So Autopilot analyzes the risk of all changes at every stage in software delivery and ensures only quality software is released to the production. Autopilot eliminates the risks and vulnerabilities by implementing security checks and enforcing SDLC policies. So you can have OPA policies that can be enforced in the delivery pipelines. So it provides automated verification. So automated verification to help DevOps and SREs automatically identify and mitigate risks at all stages of the CI/CD process by leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning on logs and metrics to find the regression. And you have continuous governance and security. Autopilot helps DevSecOps. So DevSecOps, you might have heard of this term. So it's basically about the security. So DevSecOps team, it helps DevSecOps team to quickly define SDLC policies and enforce them in the delivery pipelines. So next is automated approvals, also called informed approvals. So Autopilot collect information from DevOps toolchain to help release managers take faster and optimized decisions in their pipeline. And the next is the observability, traceability, and insights. So it provides all the metrics and dashboard about application deployment and pending approvals. So here is how Argo rollouts work. So you would have an ingress gateway, and when you start the canary analysis, when you start the canary deployment, it creates. So basically, before that, let me talk about the canary deployments. There are two scenarios for the canary. So one is like you would send some percentage of the traffic to the canary application, and you will check the metrics of that. And if it is fine, you will verify, maybe manually, or if you have some automated tests that you would run against that. And then if it all goes fine, then you would increase the traffic, and then that's how you would slowly move all your traffic to the canary release. That's one way. And there is another way, which is like you start. So in the previous case, you don't test your canary release against the base version, against the base release. You are testing only whether the canary release is working fine. The superficial things you would test, like the sanity check basically. So those things you would check and you would go ahead. So the second method is where we do apples to apples comparison. Like you would start baseline version and a canary version at the same time. You would run them for a certain time. You would pass on a small amount of traffic to both of them, like what is shown here actually. And then you gather all the metrics and logs. So we are talking about autopilot now. So we'll collect logs and metrics and we analyze, and finally we give a score. So this is an in-depth analysis of the metrics as well as logs, and then after the risk assessment, it would send the feedback to Argo Rollouts controller saying, yeah, it's a go or it's a no-go. So let's see the demo for that. So yeah, let me show you the demo. Yeah. Okay. So what you're seeing here. Okay. So for this example purpose, I am not. I'm using only.
Hey, Kieran, we're having a little bit of issue seeing your screen right now.
Okay. So okay, let me.
Maybe try stop sharing your screen and start sharing it again.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Okay. So in this demo, we are going to use Argo Cd, Argo Rollouts, and Autopilot. So what you're seeing on the screen is the Argo Cd UI screen. So you don't need to have the UI for this. You can see everything in the terminal as well. But anyway, so, and also in this example, I am not using ingress controller to make it simple. Only I'm using only 3 manifests, which I would show you. Wait. Okay. So, so here are our manifests, just 3 manifests. And let me show you first how this look like. So as of now, so let me show you first what is already there in the system, and we can see how we get to this stage. So right now you are seeing there is a service, there is an analysis template, and there is a rollout. And you are seeing something called an experiment. Okay, so this experiment is basically provided by Argo Rollouts. So it creates 2 replica sets, and each would create a pod, one for the baseline version and another for the canary. And then experiment would run and will create an instance of analysis run. So basically this is derived from the analysis template that would create a job, and the job would create a pod that would do the analysis basically. So this is how it works. So right now this is an already completed experiment. So what I would do is first let me show you what those manifests look like. So these are very simple manifests, easy to understand. So service is just a normal service. And you have a rollout where we define the strategy, canary, and it's an experiment. And it has it creates two baseline and canary pods, and you are giving the analysis template. The OS analysis job is the analysis template name, which we will see in a moment. And we are passing some details. Basically, these details would give the analysis template a handle to access the canary and newly created pods. And this is our application. IssueGen 1.1.7 is our application. And let's see the analysis template. So this is an analysis template which has a bunch of environment variables, and that we are and there is something called verify job. So this is what we have developed to communicate with the autopilot, the autopilot, the intelligent layer in the OpsMx ISD. So this will pass on the details needed to analyze the newly created pods, that is the baseline and the canary, both the logs and metrics, and then the autopilot would give the score. So now going back to this one. So so to start, so right now there is a version 1.1.7, which is a V1 version. And okay, before that, let me show you. So I can delete this experiment because this experiment is already done. So I can delete this. I mean, just to have a clutter-free UI, I'm going to delete this, but we can keep it as well. No issues. So now what you're seeing is a pod. So ideally, this is a production pod. So we are showing here just for our demo purpose. There is only one pod, but the count will be usually high, at least minimum 20 or 50 or 100, whatever. So based on your production deployment. But for this scenario, we are keeping it simple, only one pod. And so when we, okay, let me make a change. So we are upgrading this to say, let's say 1.8. And I'm going to check in this one. And if you know Argo Cd, so commit is pushed. And if you know Argo Cd, you would know that will be picked up. So this out of sync means it found a change in the source, which is a Git repo. And where is that Git repo specified? So in the application creation, so this is the Git repo. I will tell you how to create an application as well, but just note that, yeah, we have already provided the Git repo here, so that's why it is able to sense or identify the change in the Git repo. And this is the cluster URL, so which is basically the same cluster where this Argo Cd or Argo Rollout is deployed. And now it is saying out of sync. Now let's sync it. So that's when. So right now it's saying rollout is updated. Rollout has changed. So you want me to do you want to sync or not? So I will sync it in a moment. But what happens when I click on that sync is it creates an experiment object, and that would create two replica sets, one for a baseline and one for a canary, and each replica set would create a pod, a baseline pod, which is same as this version. So this is 1.1.7. So you can see there 1.1.7 IssueGen 1.1.7, And so now when I click on sync, you would see one more 1.1.7 version and a 1.1.8 version. So both versions will run for a certain time. We have put a limited time like 2 to 3 minutes for the analysis, but ideally when in production scenario, you would run it for at least an hour so that it would capture all the possible scenarios that would happen. So I am clicking on sync. So here is a sync button and it shows this is out of sync. So I'm clicking on synchronize. So yeah, as you can see, there is an experiment and there are two replica sets, and shortly there will be an analysis run as well that will be created. Yeah, so this is an analysis run, and that created a job and that created a pod. So this is a short-lived pod that would run for this job. So what this pod does is, let's see. And I didn't show you the autopilot screen yet. So let's see that. So if you see here, so it has paused on the details, and quickly see the OES screen. So this is a continuous verification. So ours is issue gen. So this is the previous one. So while the analysis being happening, let's see what you would see once the analysis is done. So here is the details of logs and metrics. So if you see the details here, it has captured the metrics and logs of the baseline and canary versions. And so these are the log clusters. So this is the AI ML layer where it would identify the clusters of the logs, and it will group them and see if there are any anomalies. So in the unexpected region, it didn't find any, so that's why it's not showing. But otherwise, you would see some error logs here, and similarly for the metrics analysis. So you would see this nice graphical representation of the changes of the baseline and the canary. So if there is a deviation beyond the threshold, then that would be a red flag, and it will send back a no-go signal to the Argo rollout. So that's when it will be aborted. Like it would go back to the previous release. And let's see what's happening here. Yeah. So if you see here, so there is a analysis run number 528, and it's still running. And so shortly, these two pods will be terminated, scaled down to 0, because we have set 3 minutes as the time for the analysis. So during these 3 minutes, this pod will be, this pod will wait for the autopilot to complete the analysis. Once that is done, this will give back the response and it will be over. Yeah, so looks like this is okay. So I forgot something, because this is a simulated scenario and I forgot to load. I forgot to send the load. So to simulate the scenario, I am just sending some script to, as a request. So this will send a few requests, and so right now this is degraded, because let's see what happened. It will show why the analysis got failed. So this is the version 528. And the reason is, so there were no logs because we didn't send any requests and there wasn't any load. So let's see what happens when we send the load. So I will upgrade this version again to say, let's say 9. It is pushed. Let's refresh. And it's out of sync. And we are sending the load. It's good. And let's sync again. So again, a new experiment got created and the same thing. So you have two baseline and canary pods, and there is an analysis run that created a pod. And this would send the connectivity details and the needed information for the autopilot. And autopilot would start analyzing the data of these two pods. So here in this case, actually, we have only 3 pods in the production right now. So one is an existing one, which is supposed to be like not one, but it could be more. It would be like more, and there is one baseline newly created and one canary pod newly created. So in this scenario, when I'm sending the traffic, so actually these 3 pods would equally share, but that's not the ideal scenario. Just for the demo, we are showing that. So ideally, you would create, you would have an ingress controller, and in the ingress controller, you can give the traffic percentage basically. So how much percentage should this baseline get, the newly created pod, and how much percentage this newly created canary should get. So we can specify that, and so the rest would go to the baseline. So that's how it is. It can be configured. But for now, so when we are sending, the traffic would be like most probably, I think, round robin, it will be sent. So these two would be getting, so whether it gets more than 5% or 5%. So our goal is to have both of them equal traffic, which is happening. And so the number is 529 and the analysis is happening. So while this happens, let's analyze some of the details of, let's see, analysis run manifest. Glitch, I think. That's not expected. I hope I am online.
Yeah, we can still see and hear you. Maybe some of the tools are having network issues right now.
Yeah. Okay. So by the way, this is the OpsMx ISD. So it has a security layer, compliance, and you have audit, policy management, audit trail, all these things. Okay, looks like this application.
Well, that's not exciting. What went down with our servers right now? Because you're still live. So, ladies and gentlemen, nothing better than a webinar with some technology issues. So let us try to figure this out, and we'll get right back to this real quickly. I'll check on the back end to see if we can make sure that that's up and running.
Yeah, but I think you might have got the idea. So we have seen a failure scenario and a success scenario if this will go through. So the failure scenario is like it didn't go through the canary pod analysis. The analysis got failed because of some reason, and so that's why this wouldn't go through. And we are hopeful that this would go through because the right now we are the logs should be there and it should analyze, and we are hopeful that it would go through and the pod this would replace. This would get replaced. Yeah, looks like the network issue is still there.
Can we move on, or are we kind of
I
dead in
think,
the water with a network issue?
okay, so I think that's all actually I wanted to show. Like if it comes up, I would show some more details, but otherwise, yeah, that's all I wanted to show for this demo. So you would see, you have seen like there is an, okay, let me start creating an application. I wanted to show you that. Okay, looks like it's, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Looks like there is some network issue, but I think I hope you got to see how Argo rollout work with Autopilot.
So everybody, sorry for the technology issues, but such is the life of technology. We will definitely go through the rest of the presentation now. We're going to have another little poll pop up here, and while we do that, we're gonna, if you want to talk about Community Edition here real quick, Karen.
Yeah. So we have the Autopilot version Community Edition as well. If you like to see that, you can. You can have that. I will give the links in the next slide. So basically what Autopilot does for you is it reduces the risk of software release by 50%, save at least 3 to 4 hours in verification, and achieve 100% compliance in your SDLC process. So which I couldn't demonstrate here, but you can feel free to go through our website and get the details. Yep.
Well, actually, thank you so much, Karen, for the presentation. We had a couple little tech issues, but such is life. We did have a lot of people very interested in the presentation, so thank you with that. A lot of people were really excited of seeing how it worked in real time. We'll pop up this poll here real quick, and as we're doing that, running this poll, feel free to ask any questions you guys have. You can either do it in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and after the poll is over, we'll get through those questions with Karen, and we'll be wrapping up the webinar shortly. If we have so many questions, we can't get through all of them. We'll make sure that Karen answers them and gets back to everyone. So we'll have the poll up for just a few more minutes, and we will let you guys start asking more and more questions. We already have a few popping in right now. So I'll leave this poll up for just another minute, and we'll go over to the Q&A. Well, awesome. I'm going to let that countdown go to a minute. We have 13 seconds left. So if you guys have any more, want to interact with the poll, that'd be great. If not, we'll go over to Q&A. So thank you yet again. All right, Karen, let's get into some of these questions that we have.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the first one here. Can this specific type of experiment be set up on a nameplate level so that any deployment follow-up can be followed up in the strategy?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Brent?
Yeah. Can this experiment, basically what you've shown, be set up on namespace level so any deployment follow the strategy?
Yes, it's at the namespace level. I think if I haven't shown you, so we are defining that in a namespace here. Say, should be somewhere here. We have specified. So yeah, absolutely, it can be done in any namespace.
Awesome. Can you pull back up the little slide that we had about Autopilot Community Edition?
Yep.
Because we have a question, what's the difference between Community Edition and the full version? So on Community Edition, you have, and if you pull that slide up, it's on the slide. You have limited interactions with the tool. It's a full version of the software. It just gives you limited, it gives you 20 intelligent gates and 1 month of audit traceability. And after that, it's, the trial is over and the Community Edition's done, and you can upgrade to do more if need be. All right, another question that we have is, how does the setup know that only 5% of the traffic goes into a canary pod? And where was that specified?
Okay, so yeah, in our example, we didn't show because we didn't use the ingress. But if we had used the ingress, it would be specified in the rollout. Right after the template, you would specify the weight, like how much percentage for baseline and how much percentage for the canary. Yeah, so there you will specify.
Another one that we have is around the Helm charts and how Argo Cd works with those.
Oh yeah, Argo Cd supports both the Git repo manifest, direct manifest, or Helm charts. So actually, if it works, I would have shown you that there is an option. When we create an application in the Argo Cd, so you have an application. I mean, you have an option there. So to select Git repo or Helm repo there. So yes. Yeah. Any more questions, Brent?
Sorry, I was talking with mute. So it does support Helm file, correct?
Yes, it does support.
That was another question that came in. People did like how you showed live code where it went from one version to another and how the tool works. So that was nice. Do you have any examples of what you wanted to show during that presentation when the systems went down, or did you kind of get over everything? I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about what you were going to show if the tool was working properly.
So if the tool was working properly, you would have seen the change in the pod, like it would have shown the version change or the new pod created in the production, like all the pods. So right now we have only one pod, but in production you would see all the pods would be replaced with the new version, and you would see the analysis and metric details, which I kind of already showed you previously with the previous version. Yeah, so that was what I was about to show when it goes fine.
Do you want to see if the services are back up and running real quick before we wrap up the webinar?
Yeah, looks like not.
No worries. I figured we would just try one more time. We have a couple more questions come in. If moving to a new version, is it manual or rules based, how everything is done?
So it's automatic, right? So we have specified, we have updated the rollout to a canary version. So now we have put everything there, like for the analysis. So you have you are analyzing metrics, you are analyzing logs. So now all that we want is, if everything goes fine, then you would go with the new version. If not, you would leave with the existing version. So it is automated.
Okay. Is there any deviation in the base and how it works with the canary, or is it basically dependent on everybody's specific usage of the tool?
Can you repeat that actually?
The question, it's kind of a two-part question. It said, if deviation from the base in canary, is it less than some X? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, so that,
okay.
correct.
That makes sense to you. It didn't make sense to me. So awesome.
Okay, so the deviation we specify in the autopilot, like we configure there, like how much deviation is considered a failure. So that we can decide. We configure in the autopilot. So which I didn't show you, but that we can configure in the autopilot. So the percentage of deviation threshold, like what is, if it goes beyond, it's considered as a failure. If it is less, I mean, it's a little bit of close to the threshold, then it would reduce the score basically. So if you see the autopilot screen, it has a lot of details. You can see the charts and details of what it means for what it means by the score. So why the score is less or more based on the metrics.
Awesome. Hey, I'm just a crazy marketing guy, so I'm glad that question made sense to you. It did to me. Another question we came in is around autopilot. Is it on-prem? Is it SaaS? Is it both? Does it give you the flexibility of that?
Yes, it is actually both. You have SaaS version available. Yeah, you can contact us in our website, so you would get more details there. Yes, definitely it is SaaS version available. You can quickly check that.
Awesome. Well, I think we're wrapping up the questions. If nobody has any other questions, we can wrap up this webinar. Oh, I think another one just popped up. Oh, we get more and more. We weren't going to, we're not going to close. Is Autopilot Docker? Can Autopilot work with Docker?
Can Autopilot work with Docker? Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And it can
can
go
be on premise as well. It can work on Docker as well.
Yes.
You have
awesome.
a SaaS version as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you read my mind because that was going to be the next question related to that. Well, excellent. Well, once again, thank you everybody for attending. Sorry for the little technical difficulties, but hey, nobody had the internet drop, so that's a good one. Today's world, you never know when the internet's going to drop. So once again, thank you everybody. Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to do this webinar. Once again, everybody, have a great day. Have a good new year, and we look to talk to you in the future. Oh, wait a minute. We have another question. Let's do this last one and then we'll wrap it up. Can you show the minimum requirements configure to enable autopilot? Is that something you can show? What are the minimum requirements to configure autopilot? Or is that something we want to take offline?
Okay, so whatever I showed you, right? So all we need means if you have an autopilot already running there, then all you need is to pass on certain details that can be provided by Argo Rollouts, like the pod hash templates of the newly created pods. Those are one. And the other is which autopilot endpoint you want this data to be sent for analysis. So those are the few things. And you can, optionally include other things like how long you want the autopilot to run. Basically how long you want this analysis to continue. So those things you need to pass on.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I think that's all of our questions. Thank you once again, everyone. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you all in the future. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.